Hello, my name's Roisin. I think we could all use a holiday about now. Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. We're in the corner again today because I am not feeling my best, so I'm sorry if this video, no, I'm not sorry, but this video might be a little more low-key than usual. Also, my bun is absolutely enormous, but won't fit, so it won't fit all in frame. That's mostly because I haven't brushed my hair for a week. Just spoony things. Anyway, I am just here to talk to you today about some books set in countries potentially other than your own, potentially your own, but will help you feel like you have escaped to somewhere else and you are exploring the world, even though you are still in the middle of a pandemic in lockdown. I love reading books as a way to explore the world and to imagine what places I've never been to might be like. Some writers are really brilliant at helping you to experience that atmosphere and a world so different from your own. So I have 10 books here that are set in 10 different countries that you maybe would want to visit, or maybe just read these books and see if it brings on a sense of wanderlust. I know that it has done for me, and escaping through reading has definitely been a help during this pandemic. I have tried to find a little quote from all of the books that relates to the setting. You can get a little sample of that, a little glimpse into the world that it is describing. And hopefully you'll find something in this list that will help you feel like you have got away. So before we get into the books, I just wanted to say, because I've got to 1,000 subscribers this week, I am going to do an assumptions about me thing, because I know a lot of people do 1k Q&As or like a Q&A every time they get to 1,000, but I did a Q&A like 6 weeks ago, and so I don't want to repeat that exactly. So I'd like to do an assumptions about me thing, because I know that's also quite fun. So either put your assumptions in the comments down below and I will use them for my video, or if you want to be a little bit more anonymous, I will put up a question box in my Instagram. My handle is Sick of Reading. I'll leave a link in the description and I'll do that for the next couple of days. Okay, let's get into the books. So this video was actually inspired by Grace from GK Reads, who talked recently about Captain Corelli's Mandolin, and that just reminded me of how much I love that book, and also of the Greek island descriptions in that book, and how much I enjoyed feeling like I'd escaped to Greece, even if it was a Greece under Italian occupation during the Second World War. I still really enjoyed the book. So that's the first one on this list. That is Captain Corelli's Mandolin by Louis de Berniere. So it's set in the early days of the Second World War, as I mentioned, after Mussolini's Italian troops have invaded and are occupying Greece. And it's about Dr. Yanis, who practices medicine alongside his daughter Pelagia. The officer in charge of the Italian garrison on Kefalonia, which is the Greek island in which this book is set, is Captain Corelli, and he loves music and art and beauty. He's very much a stereotypical Italian in that way. He plays the mandolin and loves opera, and so even though it is an occupation, it's kind of, at the beginning of the book, a very like fun, there's kind of a relationship between the Italians and the Greeks that happens, and Corelli and Pelagia begin an affair. Of course the war goes on and things get a bit darker, and the Germans come and join the Italians, and there is a lot that happens that is especially difficult because Pelagia and Corelli are on opposite sides of the war. It is a really beautiful, sad, moving novel, and although I have no desire to be in Greece during the Second World War, the descriptions of Kefalonia and its beautiful seas and everything is really stunning, and it definitely makes you want to be lying on a beach in a Greek island. The half-forgotten island of Kefalonia rises improvidently and inadvisedly from the Ionian Sea. It is an island so immense in antiquity that the very rocks themselves exhale nostalgia, and the red earth lies stupefied, not only by the sun, but by the impossible weight of memory. Next is a book that I read last year, and I've talked about quite a lot on this channel because I love it so much, and that is Summer Light and Then Comes the Night by Kallmann Stefansson, which is set in a small town in Iceland of 400 people. It's a weird collective story that's kind of told from the perspective of we, and they tell the stories of different they tell the interconnected stories of different people who live on this island. There's definitely a surrealist element to it, but I feel like I've never been to Iceland, but from the pictures I see of Iceland and some Icelandic people I've met, I think it is kind of a slightly surreal, strange place that it feels almost like you're in a sort of fantasy world. So the surreal aspect of the narrative really lends itself to this. It's a very funny book. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. There's a Latin teacher who becomes obsessed with the astronomy and the secrets of the universe and gives up everything, including his wife, and paints his house to look like constellations. There's that kind of weird novel. There's definitely a whimsy to it, but it's a bit darker as well. Almost supernatural darkness going on, and also a lot of sex, but not like sexy sex. Like it's weird, not weird like I'm judging someone's kink or that it's kinky at all, just it's purposefully surreal and odd, the kind of sexuality of this book, the desires and humanity. I really loved it. It's funny and silly and weird, and the writing is just excellent, but I couldn't find any quotes that weren't in Italian, which is bizarre considering it was written in Icelandic. A very different style of writing. It's not lyrical in a way. I don't know how to explain it. I guess it's Icelandic. But I really enjoyed it. The next one is set in the country I live. In fact, it is set one county over, and that is The Essex Serpent by Sarah Perry. But I know that a lot of my audience are American, so maybe you can imagine you are coming to the English countryside. And even if you are from England, this book made me want to visit Essex, which, you know, it's not really considered an excellent holiday destination, but this book made the like flat stillness of Essex something that sounded as attractive as Cornwall or Snowdonia. So this is set in the 19th century in London. It begins in London, and it's about a woman who her husband has recently passed away, and she has this heart surgeon who's obsessed with her, but she wants to go to Essex because she has heard that there is a giant serpent terrorising this the Essex coastline. Embedded a little bit in science, like Victorian science, and when fossils were just becoming being discovered, and people thought maybe they were living fossils, which is what she believes that this serpent could be. So she goes to Essex and she meets this vicar. She meets this vicar and his wife, and they have this friendship, this relationship that's really passionate. It's kind of about faith and love and friendship and passion and science all sort of mingle together, and also hysteria and mass hysteria and the treatment of girls and women. There's a lot in this novel, but it's exceptionally beautiful. It's kind of a neo-gothic, but I really love this. I know I've talked about it several times on this channel, but it is also the descriptions of the Essex countryside make it seem so magical and wonderful, which is not those are not adjectives I had associated with Essex before reading this book, but it definitely made me want to visit the estuary. Essex has her bride's gown on. There's cow parsley frothing by the road and daisies on the common, and the hawthorns dressed in white. Wheat and barley fatten in the fields, and bindweed decks the hedges. Next is a piece of non-fiction that I've only read very recently, and that is The Living Mountain by Nan Shepherd, and this is about the Cairngorms in Scotland. So again, not too far from where I live, like as far as you can get and still be in Great Britain, but still that's not that far, but it is somewhere that I've always wanted to visit. And this is Nan Shepherd talking about walking on the mountain and her experience of the mountain. It's a very short book, it's only about 100 pages, and it is nature writing written in 1944 by Nan Shepherd, who is a woman who lived all of her life in the Cairngorms, and she is also a writer of novels and poetry, and this book is very poetic and very beautiful. Now, I did struggle with it slightly in that I always seem to struggle more with books from the like 20s, 30s, 40s and 50s than I do like Victorian, I'm fine with, and modern, I'm fine with, but for some reason that early mid-century, I kind of, there's some sort of disconnect there with a lot of the books I've read from that time period. However, despite my struggling a little bit with concentration, I did think that it was incredibly beautiful, and it definitely made me want to go and visit the Cairngorms and think about mountains and water and nature in a different way. So if you have never if you're not someone who reads a lot of nature writing, but you do enjoy poetry or literary fiction, very literary, beautiful writing, I feel like this could still be something that you would enjoy. And if you have any interest in Scotland and the nature of Scotland as well, I think this is a book for you. Summer on the high plateau can be as delectable as honey. It can also be a roaring scourge. To those who love the place, both are good, since both are part of its essential nature. And it is to know its essential nature that I am seeking here. Next is another book set during conflict, which would maybe think it wouldn't make you want to visit the country, but the beauty of the writing definitely makes it seem attractive as well, especially considering this is told from multiple perspectives. This is the Poisonwood Bible by Barbara Kingsolver, which is set in the Congo. About a man who takes a man from Georgia in the States who moves to Congo with his wife and 4 daughters as a missionary to try and convert people to Christianity in the middle of the 20th century. I think it's the 50s and 60s, just before Congo's fight for independence. It is one of the most beautifully written novels that I have ever read, and it is told from the perspective of the wife and the 4 daughters. So there's 5 different perspectives being told here, and some of them are very some of them really don't like that they've moved and they miss their old life in America, but some of them really love the place that they've moved to, and descriptions of nature and their relationships with people there are really beautiful and moving. It is such a visceral novel, a novel that you can really feel what's going on, and I think that makes it one that makes you feel like you are there, and it's definitely made me want to visit somewhere I'd never really considered visiting before I read this novel, and also to read more books about this place. I have here one that I haven't read yet, but is about a similar time, and that's The Death of Comrade President by Alain Mabackou. So even though I won't be reading the Poisonwood Bible again, I'm definitely going to revisit Congo in book form. And all of us, with our closed eyes, smelled the frangipani blossoms in the big rectangles of open wall. Flowers so sweet they conjure up sin or heaven, depending on which way you are headed. Number 6 on my list is Braised Pork by Anne Yu, which is set in Beijing and Tibet. It's about a woman who finds her husband dead in the bath with a picture of a half fish, half man, mermaid, I guess, that he has drawn next to him, and she wants to discover the reasons for this. And so she is in Beijing, and it's about modern Beijing, about being a woman in Beijing and her experience and her disconnect from her family, and then she also travels to Tibet, where her husband has travelled before, where he saw this fish man, and so she's there's fabulous elements here, lots of play with water and this dream world where there are people where she's in the water, and there's lots of fire and water symbolism, but it also made me want to visit contemporary Beijing with the descriptions of what the city is like and how it's changed, and the clash there of the old and the new in Beijing, which I think is something that you get in all old cities, but it's something that made Beijing seem really interesting a place to visit. Interestingly, it less made me want to visit Tibet. I felt like the descriptions of Tibet there wasn't that much beauty in it, because it's a very cold, disconnected novel in terms of the way that it's written, but it definitely intrigued me in regards to Beijing. And again, this is one that I haven't been able to find any quotes for, and unfortunately, because I borrow most of my books from the library, I can't just grab them off the shelf. They are all been returned. Another one that I read very recently next is Normal People by Sally Rooney. I know there's lots of fiction, literature, travel writing about Ireland. Ireland is a place that people romanticise a lot, and a lot of people want to visit. It is a beautiful country, so I can understand why. Normal People tells the story of Connell and Marianne. Connell, who is a well-adjusted, popular, but working class boy, and Marianne, who is from a well-off family but is very dysfunctional, and everyone at school thinks she's weird, and how they start a relationship, and then they move to Dublin to start going to university at Trinity, and it's about their relationship. It's a very mundane book. I did a whole reading vlog of it very recently, which I will leave in the cards above if you would like to go and check that out, but it is very much a psychological book in their heads. It's a lot of thoughts and feelings and very normal everyday events that happen, but it's about their reactions, their interactions. It's about gender and class and economics in Ireland. It's a very very thought-based book, but there is also a lot of beautiful descriptions of Dublin, particularly. He made it seem romantic and beautiful in the way that a lot of descriptions of Dublin do. Dublin is extraordinarily beautiful to her in wet weather. The way grey stone darkens to black and rain moves over the grass and whispers on the slick roof tiles. Raincoats glistening in the undersea colour of street lamps. Rain silver as loose change in the glare of traffic. Next on my list is one to make you want to visit India, or particularly to want to visit the state of Kerala in the south of India, because India is a big place and they're very different from the north to the south. But this is The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy. Booker Prize-winning novel set in 1969 in Kerala, about twins whose mother is unmarried. And it's told from the perspective of these twins, so it's told from these childhood characters about their family, their grandparents, and their uncle, who is a Marxist intellectual. And there's like workers' strikes going on. It's a very political time in the state of Kerala. And the events of the novel kind of happen when their English cousins come and visit them, and things change all of a sudden. Kind of slow-moving novel where you kind of don't expect things to happen, and then suddenly a lot of tension builds up and everything is slowly unravelling that has been built up before, so it feels like it was moving. Everything felt still on top, but there was a lot going on beneath the surface. And it's also incredibly beautifully written, very poetic and beautiful. It seems like it's about simple things, but it's actually very complicated, and it's talking a lot about politics and gender as well as talking about family and love. White-walled once, red-roofed, but painted in weather colours now, with brushes dipped in nature's palette, moss green, earth brown, crumble black, making it look older than it really was, like sunken treasure dredged up from the ocean bed, whale-kissed and barnacled, swaddled in silence, breathing bubbles through its broken windows. And then the final book that I want to talk to you about is The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. This is a 900-page book where the plot revolves around 12 male characters who each represent a sign of the Zodiac, and where some of the major players of the actual plot are the sun and the moon and the planets. But you don't really need to know anything about astrology to enjoy it. I'm sure you can get another layer if you really understand that part of it, but it is a really beautiful mystery. We get told the story of what's happened through these 12 different points in the order that they are in the Zodiac, up until the point of a mystery where a woman has been found as if she's tried to attempt suicide, a man has gone missing, and there's potentially been a murder. And there are these mysterious characters arriving, and then the plot unfolds again the other way, going back on itself. It's a very circular book, and there's a lot of things all wound up together that slowly unwind, which I absolutely love. All of the 12 perspectives have a really clear voice that overlaps with one another, and you can feel when the joints meet, and is really beautiful. But it also made me want to visit New Zealand, particularly the South Island of New Zealand, as it's set in Hokitika during the gold rush in the 19th century. And particularly the weather and the wilderness there is so beautifully described. But I couldn't find any quotes to back up my assertion of this, so you'll just have to trust me. I definitely think it's one that if you want to visit New Zealand, which I know is a bucket list destination for most people because it's so far away from everywhere, then I recommend you read this book, because we can't get there right now because they're doing so well with the pandemic they won't let any of the rest of us in, which, fair enough. Good on you. So, those are my 10 books to help you travel now whilst we are stuck in our homes and in our own countries. I know a lot of people have been missing travel over the past year, and so I hope that these books will help to scratch that itch just a little, or at least add some more places to your bucket list. Please let me know in the comments below your favourite book set in a country that you would like to visit, or that you have visited and where the book really reflected your experience of that country. I would love to know what you have to say. Please remember to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and to subscribe, because I put out new videos every Wednesday, Friday and Sunday, and so I will be with you again soon. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.